Educating Her, episode number 2. Welcome to the Keep It 100 Girl podcast, and this is my house for the next 2 weeks. So normally my podcast is a weekly show full of real, raw, and relatable storytelling with 50 shades of cray-cray. I keep it real, I keep it true, I keep it 100, y'all. And this is day 2 of Educating Her, which is totally dedicated to female college freshmen attending an HBCU school this fall. We're business girlfriends. I'm talking to you like I talk to my own girlfriend. And I'm going to take you beyond the university's welcome package. And what you're going to hear today is information you're only going to find out when you talk to people like me and my featured guests. So today's episode is all about the distractions in college that could lead to failure and eventually fear. The next year is going to be different from high school. These former HBCU students are now speaking from the other side of the desk as educators, setting expectations.
Are you ready to keep it 100?
Ready to keep it 100, girl.
Oh, Nina, I keep it 100, baby.
Yes, I'm ready to keep it 100.
I'm ready to keep it 100, girl.
You know I'm going to keep it 100.
I know we keep it 100 on here. I said we're keeping it 100, but I'm going to keep it 100 again.
This HBCU panel consists of Dr. Kevin Hilton, who's an educator and social entrepreneur, Mrs. Onika Munoz, who's Chief Professional Development and Adjunct Professor in the areas of sociology, policy, urban education. And then we have Antonika Ryan, who has a background in sociology and who's the CEO and co-founder of the Ryan Institute. So all of these panelists have studied the field of education and have made careers as subject matter experts and entrepreneurs. We will be sharing eye-opening examples of not only our memories, but our reflections on our failures and fears, and all things you freshmen need to be mindful of from day 1 and beyond. All right, peeps, there's 5 things you're going to hear. Number 1, know that failure is just a bruise, not a tattoo. Number 2, no more resetting of your GPA. This is how it works, girlfriend. Number 3, the importance of campus involvement in your freshman year. Number 4, the hard way. Learn how we dusted our shoulders off. And lastly, you need to know how to stand out from the crowd starting from day 1. So when we're approaching our 20s or even in our early 20s, we're at a vulnerable state of our lives. From leaving the house to really adulting. But being away from home and having all the freedom in the world is more overwhelming than you realize. And Dr. Hilton, he gives freshmen a bird's eye view of what your GPA really means.
I would start by saying, try to get over being away from home real quickly, right? Because most incoming freshmen generally tend to start out by saying, wow, mom, dad's not around. I have all this freedom. I could just run as buck wild as possible. I can say that on a personal level. A child who is entering her junior year, and all of the experimentation that's likely to come with alcohol, drugs, dating, sex, and so forth.
Let's keep it real, y'all. Unlike high school, there is no reset button of your GPA. You will learn some tips around ways of enhancing your GPA in other episodes, but understand this is your educational rap sheet for life. It never goes away. In fact, it follows you for the rest of your life. And you're always going to be asked the question, what was your GPA? Whether it's a job application, maybe it's a bio that you have to write, maybe it's an application for a scholarship, maybe it's a letter of recommendation. Just think about it.
The sooner you can get over that, because unlike high school, or even middle school to high school, where you constantly have a reset of your GPA, there is no reset in college, and that follows you for the rest of your life. And so while you're having fun, just also remember that it's a balancing act, because if you can't keep the grades up, all this fun will disappear, and it will pass you by.
It's a balancing act. Most of all, I want you to listen in this next segment really carefully on how to avoid tanking your GPA. Full transparency here. Most people won't admit it or even say it out loud, but we did.
The sooner you can sort of manage your time and how much fun you're having, And the sooner you can somehow say, okay, why am I here and what do I hope to do? And tap into the resources that you have available to you, the tutoring center, your academic advisors, and things like that, to basically just keep you level and grounded so that way your GPA doesn't tank. All right. Stay away from all the shortcuts because there are no shortcuts in this process. Right. There is none at all. I've tried them. And it's important to know that I flunked out with a 0.09 GPA by my second year. Not 0.9, 0.09.
Damn! You heard right. You didn't think there was such a thing as 0.9 that even registered on the educational Richter scale, did you? Well, Dr. Kevin Hilton reveals how the frick it happened.
Because I ended up in Daytona Beach, attending a flight school, thinking that spring break was 3 months, not realizing it was only a week. All right, so the sooner you can get past all of that is the sooner you can somehow say, okay, why am I here and how do I maximize this so that way my GPA and all of the plans that I have for my future will stick.
So there's 3 of us on this panel who have flunked a semester and in one case, flunked out of college. But we still made it, y'all. Full disclosure. I mean, I lived a sheltered life growing up. My mom put the brakes on all the social activities. I wasn't able to party really until the end of my teenage years, right before college. And I was just getting warm. So next, you're going to hear my story.
You know, I'd like to make an admission too. I, like Kevin, partied my ass off. And it wasn't until like back in my day, you had to look on a board to see your end of semester grades. And I've always done well in school. So I had this kind of like half-assed study habits, like all in the last minute. But then when I was looking at the boards and I took 5 courses that semester, and as I looked at 1, then I looked at 2, and then my heart started sinking at 3. And then when I got to 5, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And you know what? I got that probation letter in the new year, and I just knew that this couldn't happen again.
In this next segment, Antonika tells you how to discipline your distractions real quick. You've already heard the extreme, but she's going to tell you what can happen if you don't.
So what I'm hearing, the common thing between both of you all's tip is, to discipline your distraction.
Pretty much, yeah.
Quickly.
Couldn't have said it.
Discipline your distraction quickly. And, I partied. I partied. I did hair in dorms. I did the volleyball team's hair. I did everyone's hair. I learned what to do so that I could have money to go to the parties on the weekend. So yes, college is great. You're away from home. Enjoy yourself, but understand why you're here. And even a lot of kids, for me, I took out student loans to go through school. I didn't have I had some scholarship money. I worked for room and board with the Office of Residence Life. So I was a desk attendant in the male and the female dorm just to pay to get through school. And you just have to understand that, college is not to be played with. It's a very expensive hobby.
Or mistake.
Yeah. I now in hindsight, I tell my scholars that I work with regularly, I tell them, college is not for everybody. It's not, I tell them that they need to know what they're doing. And if they're still trying to figure it out, then you need to go to a junior college where you can get your general requirements out of the way for a much cheaper price. And then figure out what you want to do and then transfer to a university. And that's not the traditional way to do things. But, when you talk about debt and, looking back in hindsight at how much really time and money was wasted because you did not discipline your distractions.
On-campus resources from financial aid to your coursework require going beyond the welcome package. Antonika explains more in depth what you need to know.
my 37-year-old self is telling my 18-year-old self, girl, Sally Mae will be knocking 6 months after your graduation date. So get it together and don't waste time. And definitely, like Kevin said, use your resources. There's so much available to students on campus, but a lot of times, students don't seek that information out. You have to ask questions. A lot of times it's not just going to fall in your lap. You have to go beyond what general information the university has sent you in your welcome packet. You have to go beyond, your session that you have with your advisor. You need to ask questions, be very specific and calculated in what you're doing, from financial aid down to your coursework that you need, and what streams of income are available for students. Like I received a book scholarship because I talked to someone who knew someone who told me that there was a book scholarship even available every semester. Those kinds of things that you don't find out unless you actually talk to people.
Campus involvement. Don't wait until your junior or senior year to start.
Networking, making those connections, emailing your professors, finding out what information, showing that you desire more. Do that from the gate and don't wait till junior and senior year. You'll be on top of your peers when it comes to, getting experiences and opportunities.
Brand yourself, whether it's inside or outside the classroom, while interning, after graduating, and before you launch your career. Those are the 3 milestones you need to bookmark now.
Build relationships, both with your professors, the department chair, the local community, outside of the school, the administration. These are opportunities for you to brand yourself, make a name for yourself. You're going to need letters of recommendations once you leave undergrad. For most of us, after you leave undergrad, you're going to be going on and pursuing graduate degrees or seeking job opportunities. You will need letters of recommendations. And when my students come to me and ask me for letters of recommendations, it's very difficult for me to be able to provide that resource for them if I don't know them. And so you definitely want someone that can write something on your behalf to help advance you and support you in your career pathway.
For those of you taking the traditional college experience with living on campus, y'all need to listen up.
For anyone who's listening and is taking some notes, these are just some of my key takeaways from my undergraduate experience. Not in any particular order, but the first one is 90% of what you learn in college happens outside of the classroom. So I'll just leave it at that. That's really more or less a takeaway for those of you who are more of the traditional college student, who have the pleasure or the privilege of being able to stay on campus and kind of have that 4-year collegiate traditional experience. Just be mindful of the fact that what you are there to learn in college, a lot of it happens outside of the traditional scope of an instructor and student experience. So just be mindful of that.
So be mindful of your choices when it comes to your circle of friends. These are your ride or die chicks, your peeps, who you're going to share bonded connections and memories with that will last a lifetime.
The friends you make in college will be the friends that you have for the rest of your life. So be open-minded, but also be mindful of your choices because they may chart your future pathway.
Enjoy the undergrad experience. This is the only time in your life you're going to be free. Well, not completely free, but you get the point. You'll be free of full adulting responsibilities.
Make time to be an undergrad and enjoy it. This will be the only time in your life where you'll be in your late teens, early 20s, and free of bills and rent and mortgage and bosses and jobs that you don't like. You have plenty of time to be, an adult inundated with the worries of the world. I would just take full advantage of being an undergrad. I enjoyed my undergraduate experience. I have friends that have been in my wedding They've been a witness to various life changes throughout my life. And I do have friends from high school still, but it's just a different bonding connection, that you have with your collegiate friends, because you all are experiencing the newness of life all at the same time. So there's nothing like your collegiate bond.
In this global world, do something different. That's going to make you stand out from the crowd. Let's hear how you're going to accomplish that.
If I had an opportunity to go back and do something different that I did not get to do while at Fisk, was study abroad. That's a regret that I had. I had a chance to do it. I did not do it. I would advise anybody to go abroad. Our world is more global now than it ever has been before in the past, and you need to open yourself and open your mind and expose yourself to the world outside of the United States. And so study abroad is a great opportunity to do that and get college credit at the same time.
Welcome to the Modern Edgy Urban Store. This collection caters to modern, edgy urban men and women. No more gentrifying our genius. We own it. We consider ourselves people with an edgy, hip swag by nature. We are unapologetically ourselves. We are crushing it. All day, every day. We have an urban, sexy style. The Modern Edgy Urban Store is now officially open to all men and women with an edgy urban style and swag. Summer tees and greeting cards are now available online. Visit modernedgyurban.com or follow us on Instagram.
Internships offer a great insight into your field of study, and you're going to start to understand what it means to create your brand and reputation outside of the classroom.
Intern often. I had more than one internship, and it definitely broadened my horizon and influenced sort of the pathway that I made as far as career options. But had I not had those opportunities as an undergrad, I may have missed some great insight. And so, and a lot of times interns may not be as full paid or paid at all. And so once you leave college, as mentioned before, and those bills start to come in and student loans, they become less opportunities for you to be able to take on unpaid internships. So during that 4-year collegiate experience, that's something I would highly recommend.
Seeking a mentor is recommended from day one. It can be a professor, reach out to a CEO of a company, maybe a teacher's assistant, an RA, even as small as a restaurant owner that can lead and guide you to your dream career. Find a mentor, number 1, according to your field of study. Number 2, your major. Number 3, your minor. Or number 4, everybody should learn entrepreneurship. That should be your goal in life, is to work for yourself and follow your own passions. And number 5, no excuses. You can always find a mentor because Google is your friend.
Get a mentor. Get a mentor, someone that you can talk to that has experience and has been there where you've been, someone that can kind of help you in terms of looking at next steps. Kevin spoke about career advisement and getting your resume together, things of that nature. It's really great to be able to talk to someone that you trust and can provide that level of advice for you as well.
Dr. Hilton explains the GPA effect and the impact a mentor has on every student.
I can't emphasize the mentor part of it as I don't even know how to emphasize that. So I can share my own personal experience. So when I flunked out with my 0.09 GPA, the difference was my mentor. So I was surprised that I got accepted to the second school that I applied to, because I was certain that once they saw my GPA, they were going to yank me out of they're going to say no. And when I was accepted, every day I knew for sure that someone was going to come to my class and say, come this way, we've made a terrible mistake. The difference is that I was fortunate to enroll in a class where I met a professor who was from an HBCU, who reassured me that I was smart and that I wasn't working hard enough, right? And I say to him all the time and to others, I owe everything that I have to that person. He's largely responsible for me graduating. He's responsible for me going to graduate school. And he paved the way for me to be accepted to Howard University to pursue my PhD. He was young. I thought he was the coolest, hippest person I'd ever met. He was hard as hell, and he would tell you that we're out drinking and having a beer together, but I'll fail you, with some 4-letter words behind it, right? It was through him that I learned the value of both scholarship in terms of thinking, but also scholarship for paying for my education. So I can easily say to anyone that once I made it to my undergrad all the way through, I was awarded somewhere in excess of about $80,000 in scholarship money for both undergrad, master's, and a PhD, going to school 12 years straight.
The self-check means you're going to hear things that you don't want to hear, which is what you need throughout your life as a process of your own continuous self-improvement, whether it's from your friends, your family, or faculty. So
if you can find a mentor, right, someone that you can be open with, they will, again, be able to write things like letters of recommendation, just like you highlighted, Anika. They'll also be able to point you in the direction of resources. And they'll also self-check you as well as kind of help you to navigate systems and so forth. I can't say how important finding a mentor is.
Failure and fear. The panel shares how we got through it, people, and why it didn't happen again.
I know for me, I realized I had too much time on my hands, and that's just kind of like a theme throughout my life. If I have too much time on my hands, I'm not going to get stuff done. When I'm busy, I know I have no wiggle room, and I have X amount of time to get stuff done, and I work better in that type of environment.
So I lived at home while I went to college. So my strategy was a little different.
So I ended up getting a part-time job, and thankfully my father was supportive, even though, you know, I was sitting on my bed in a yoga position, and he's never seen me do that. And he said, I don't remember this. He's telling me this. And I cut off all my hair after I got all my grades. And he caught me saying, and so he was like, what is going on here? So I handed him my transcript, and he was like, oh. But then he was like, you're 18 years old. You have a whole life ahead of you. Learn from it and don't let it happen again. And that was very supportive. I was expecting like a belt to come out and, you know, just be like, you wasted my money. But, you know, and I encourage any parents who might even be listening to this segment to kind of take the same approach. It's just not like put the fear factor in your child because of this mistake, but encourage them. And I think that's what helped me along the way, is I did not want not only disappoint myself again, but disappoint my parents.
Turning failure and fear into a positive. Dr. Hilton didn't want to go back home.
Michael Jordan has this commercial for Nike called Failure, right? And the essence of it is the reason why he succeeded is that he's failed, right? And he talks about how many game-winning shots he's missed and so forth and so forth. One of the best advice my second mentor gave me was failure and fear are your two best friends. Fear will keep you on your toes. Failure will let you be much more aware of your limitations, and you can make adjustments, and it's from that standpoint that you grow. I think the shift that I made after I flunked out was just saying, oh shit, I don't want to go back home to Brooklyn, right? I like it here. And so therefore, I just don't want to go back. And if I'm going to stay here, then I'm going to have to make some shifts. The next advice that I got from my mentor at that time was, hey, look, for every 1 hour in your class, and I think most people might have heard this, try to dedicate 3 hours, right? And it was a simple rule. For the first hour, review what you learned. The second hour, work on your assignment. And the third, prep for your next lecture, because you might have pop quizzes and things like that. That advice fundamentally changed every single thing, because then I started treating my education as if it were a job. If I'm taking 15 hours and I got to multiply that by 3, hell, I don't have time to do anything else, right? And I can get through that. And once I got through it, then I'll have some time to have quote unquote fun. I couldn't show up to every wet t-shirt or every bikini contest or to every whatever event that was occurring. You know, I can only pick the ones where I had the time. And that really, for me, those two things, those things about fear and failure and about how to use my time was really what helped me to get through to it. I can't tell you that I got the 3-hour thing right, because it required a fundamental shift, but I kept it in the back of my mind to just hold myself accountable. Am I putting in at least half of that time? And if the answer was no, You just had to kind of regulate or manage your distraction. I like the way you use that. So that way, you wouldn't go off the deep end.
Getting ahead is a key habit to develop, whether it's inside or outside the classroom. We want you to start this today.
My rule of thumb was to be 1 or 2 chapters ahead in every class so that I never was playing catch up, and if the professor while in class was addressing something later in the book, I could speak to it. Like I could put up my hand and say something.
Next, this is really what takes it to the hill. I want everybody listening to understand this is higher ed strategy. And I want you to learn how to apply it to your own situation.
That would be my little tidbit in terms of how I got through it. And once I was able to figure that part out, by the time I got to a master's program, I had the system so much on lock that for a program that should have been 2 years, student personnel administration, that should have been 2 years, I did it in 1 year. I was the first to do that because I had literally figured out, so if you really put the time in, you can kind of take more classes, you can wipe this stuff out. And then I became intrigued with the fact that, again, advice from my mentor, hey, look, you can graduate with your master's or PhD before you're 25. You can have all the fun in the world after that. You'll be still young, handsome, you'll be hip, you'll have money in your pocket versus stretching this process out. Just get it out of the way so you can go on with your life. And that was all she wrote. And that really, when I earned my PhD at 28 years old, right? And so a lot of that just basically, although I flunked out 2 years, I just sometimes wish I'd had that kind of guidance because in my mind, I would have been 26 and I would have had all these things and I would have been having even more fun.
More checks.
More checks.
Stand up like a soldier. Failure is nothing more than a chance to revise your strategy. So know that. Just minimize the failures, though, as much as possible. The costly ones, that is. Not only did we share our failures, but we gave you some key takeaways for managing and disciplining your distractions in college. To obtain a free copy of the suggested tips and advice from this education panel, visit www.educatingher02.com. And that wraps up another episode of the Keep It 100 Girls Show. It's about the aha moments, people. The advice, and lastly, the mother-friggin' girlfriend knowledge that me and my guests will be giving you every day. Women want to know what other women consider normal, what we're thinking, but not saying out loud. There's no manual on this. You gotta create your own. Whatever works for you. I can only give you the options. It's up to you to make a better informed decision than the last generation, just based on what we told you, including myself. But tune in tomorrow because we're going to learn how being a teacher's pet paid off. I keep it 100. I keep it real. I keep it true. Smooches.